Howdy Google Ads fans, and welcome back. In this lecture, I'm going to show you how to go into Google Ads and pull up some location reports, because if you want to now make bid adjustments and make your spend more efficient across different geographical locations, you need to know how to assess how different locations are performing, whether you should increase bids, decrease bids, potentially totally exclude certain locations, and there's a lot of things to think about. So let's go ahead and jump in here into the computer. So here we are back in a live Google Ads dashboard of a client that has generated $33 million in conversion value over the last few months. And we want to see, let's say, how some different locations are performing. So from the campaigns tab, you could be under search campaigns in the primary vertical navigation on the left. You could be under search campaigns, display campaigns, or shopping campaigns, and you could analyze your geographic results at any of those levels in the menu, but I'm just looking at all campaigns here for starters to get a broad overview of the entire account, and that's what I will typically do if I'm auditing an account, and a lot more on that when we get into the section of this course that talks about auditing an account that has historic data in it. So we're going to go over to locations here. It's under settings in the secondary vertical menu. I don't know if that's what it's called, but that's what I call it, and we're going to click on locations. This pulls up a basic locations report. Now I could sort these columns by clicks, by cost, by impressions, and I'm seeing all these different states that have been getting activity. So I'm seeing California, and it's breaking it down by campaign here. So I'm seeing California twice because there's a shopping campaign and a different shopping campaign that is both getting a lot of activity in California. So we could see here that California is getting the most amount of traffic, right? Now, most amount of traffic is not necessarily the key indicator of success of a campaign. It typically isn't. Usually it's conversion rate, or it's profit, it's return on ad spend. And it sort of depends on what your specific business goal at the time is. And of course, if you're going to look at conversion rate, if you look at profit, and if you're going to look at conversion value, which is revenue, you must make sure that your conversion tracking is set up properly. And of course, we will have a separate section of this course that specifically deals with installing and configuring and diagnosing your conversion tracking. So anyway, so I could see here a breakdown of all the different things that are going on. So I could say, okay, California is doing really well. It has a 7.9% conversion rate for this campaign, and I might want to make a bid adjustment, right? So if I say 7.9% is a little bit below the overall average of the account, right? But it's still performing at a conversion value divided by cost that I like, and conversion value divided by cost is your return on ad spend. We'll talk about that again in the future. I know I'm always saying we're going to talk about that in another lecture, and it's true, like we really will. But of course, once we're getting into a live account, there's so many different concepts that are really overlapping. But if I say I want to bid more aggressively, then I'm bidding in that campaign. So in that campaign, I have bids for every single product. Now I want to do something on top of that. I want to say, if I have this AMG shopping bid, LP stands for low priority, if that campaign has a product in it, or a product group, or an ad group that has a $3 bid, I want to make a bid adjustment of 20%, let's say, and so I'll be bidding an extra 60 cents on that bid. So I'll be bidding a maximum of $3.60. I want to be more aggressive in that location. I could simply click edit and increase my bid by 30%, right? So it tells me a $10 bid becomes a $13 bid. And that's just an example. That doesn't necessarily mean that my account has $10 bids, and you'll see those same messages in your account. Those are just templates. So now I have a 30% bid adjustment, which is acting on top of the bids I have in my campaigns that this location report is referencing, okay? I'm going to remove that if I click into it again, and I just go to 0 and I click save. There will be no bid adjustment, and it's as if it was deleted, right? I could also select a number of bid adjustments that I have here. Let's say I had bid adjustments. I have a bid adjustment in Florida. I could click edit, and I could remove those bid adjustments, or I could change the bid adjustments in bulk. So if I wanted to have all these 3 locations have a negative 5% bid adjustment, let's say, I would click decrease 5%, click apply, and I'll have a negative 5% bid adjustment over there. So, right, so I could go back and select them again and just remove those bid adjustments, remove 3 locations. Now, removing those 3 locations is not going to really, doesn't mean remove the 3 locations. It's just going to remove the bid adjustments that I have set on those locations. And I'm going to go back to Florida, and increase it by 10% again and click save on the individual level. So you see, it's pretty easy to set up these bid adjustments. The hard part is understanding when you should be setting up those bid adjustments. The harder part is knowing when you actually should be making the bid adjustments and how much of a bid adjustment you should be making. And we'll get to that when we talk about formulas for calculating what the appropriate max CPC bid should be. And remember, you could always reference back to our calculator that we talked about to get a sense of what your maximum CPC should be at any given time. We're looking here at a targeted location report. If I go to excluded at the top, I'm going to see a list of all the locations that we've excluded. And you notice that there's no area for bid adjustment over here because these are totally excluded locations. If I go to geographic report, we can start seeing some really cool stuff. So first I'm going to click on geographic report. And I see a bunch of states, and it looks very similar to my original targeted report. This is where you really want to come and start drilling down to see specific data. Right now I'm looking at the region level, all countries region. So we're looking at a region report now, but I can go back and click on this drop-down menu and select any of these other dimensions. So I could go down to look at neighborhood, borough, if it's close to an airport, municipality, county, congressional district, right? There's all sorts of really interesting things that I could look at. I could also just click on all countries above, and now I'm looking at a much higher level of all countries. So you can see in this campaign, almost all of the traffic is coming from the United States, right? And some other countries have a few different impressions here and there are reasons why that could happen, but it's so small that we would ignore it. I wouldn't even be bothered by showing 30 impressions over the course of 6 months in Canada. We're dealing with millions of impressions, 79 million impressions, right, in the United States. You might be wondering why you're seeing two separate location items for the United States. Well, one is called location of interest, one is physical location, and it's very simple what those two things mean. Physical location means that the user was actually in that location, whatever location is here on the left, when the ad was triggered. So when they clicked and got that, when the impression happened and the click happened, they were physically in the United States. And of course we see far more impressions and clicks for people who are in the United States. Location of interest means it could be somebody from out of the US was expressing interest in furniture stores in the US or online sofas in the US. Somehow they added that to their search term. They might have used the name of a state or the name of a city when they were searching, and Google determined that we wanted to show them an ad based on the fact that they're expressing interest in our targeted location. And in the next lecture, I'm going to show you how to modify those rules, how Google treats that. But you see here a minuscule percentage of traffic coming from location of interests. If I want to now drill further back into, let's say, go back to region, because that's really where it's going to be helpful for me in this account to start making decisions based on location data, I'm simply going to click United States and select region or state. So let's say I go ahead and click state. And now I'll be back in the state view that we were looking at previously. Actually, we were looking at region, but it's similar. You'll also notice that we're not seeing the ability to modify bids over here because this is just a location report meant to assess how my campaigns are performing. So if your client asks you, you want to know where am I getting the most clicks from? So you go into your state or your location. If you want to go into zip codes, fine. And you sort by click. So I see we're getting the most in California, the next in New York. So I start getting a sense of how this campaign is performing. Where am I spending the most? Usually where you're getting the most clicks. California, New York. Where is my conversion rate the highest? Okay. Now I'm going to sort by conversion rate. And I'm probably going to see some anomalies, right? And we have to talk about anomalies. So exactly, here's a beautiful example of an anomaly. Vermont has a 253% conversion rate, which obviously doesn't make much sense how you could have above 100% conversion rate. There are reasons why that could happen. Google could back count certain conversions if the same person converted twice through one click. So I'll see 3 clicks, but potentially 7 conversions, depending on how you're set up your counting of a conversion in Google Ads. But it's an anomaly, so we can't assume that most. And it's such slow volume that making optimizations from Vermont doesn't really help me much. As we move down into Mississippi, Mississippi has a 37% conversion rate. Again, very low amount of conversions, very low amount of clicks to really know. But I'm seeing California has a 20% conversion rate, and this is really significant. This is actual real data. So now I'll know, okay, I want to start doing some things in California to see if I can capture more of that market share. So I might now return back into my targeted tab, find California, and I could filter by all campaigns that have California in it. Remember that this is a campaign overview report. So if I just increase my bid in California here, I'm not going to be increasing my bid in all campaigns that are targeting California because I have a bunch of different campaigns in this account. So it might look different for you. So you can't actually filter from this report all targeted locations that include California, but this is a pretty simple workaround. I want to first make sure I have all of my locations showing up on this page, so I'm going to scroll to the bottom, and I see that I have 100 out of 243, so I'm going to click to show 500 rows. And then I'm going to do a simple command find or control find on Windows and type in California, and I'll have highlighted all of the targeted locations that have California. So I'm just going to select. I could go down up here, select it again, and select 2 more. And I think we got them all. Is there one more? Looks like we got them all. Okay. So now all I need to do is edit, change bid adjustments, and say I'm going to increase my bid 15%. Now, of course, I know that 15% makes sense for us in this case because I know what our max CPC bids are for California already. So I'm able to say that bid plus 15% will still keep me in the range of profitability because I know that I have an above average conversion rate for that targeted location. And that sort of formula applies in any area you're making a bid adjustment. If we're making a bid adjustment for gender, for men versus male versus female, or anything else, you want to use these formulas based on what your max CPC bid is, what your conversion rate is, and what your profit is for that location or for that demographic or for that whatever that dimension is that you're increasing or decreasing the bids on. Okay, now that I have that done, I can deselect it. And that's basically how to start getting interesting geographic reports. Just to go back in one more time, I could also look at per store reports if you have multiple locations. We don't have that in this case. I could look at a user location report, which is the same thing as the geographic report, but it just focuses on where the user location, where the user actually was when they clicked an ad. When you go back into the geographic report, remember you could always switch between campaign and location view. If I toggle into campaign view, Google Ads will show me a few more columns by default, like what that bid adjustment is for that area. Again, it's not editable from here, but you could see it, and you could see which campaign it's referencing. So I like to go back into, I typically go look at location view. I just like it better. It's cleaner, and I'm mainly looking for how overall locations are performing, and I'm not necessarily looking at it always at the campaign level. But when you are looking at it for the campaign level, and you should do that analysis as well, then you'll toggle into the campaign view. And again, use these different drop-down menus to go even further into your data. So if I go into city, let's just take a look at what that might look like in the report, and then we'll wrap up because I don't need to go through every single one. Like I said, every single one of your campaigns is going to be different. How you're targeting your campaigns are going to be different. If your campaigns are only being targeted to a specific state or to a specific location or a radius targeting, then you're going to want to always look at, let's say, postal codes within that or neighborhoods within that, right? So over here, I'm looking at cities, and of course, if I sort by clicks, we're going to have a lot more data to go through, and you could download these reports and play with them in Excel as well. Any report you see in Google Ads is downloadable. If I scroll to the bottom here real fast, I'll see that I have 24,364 locations. That's quite a bit of information to run through, and for an account like this that's spending this amount of money, it doesn't make any sense for me to be wasting time analyzing by city level. That's another thing that you have to remember as you're optimizing these campaigns in the age of the amount of data that we have, is that it's very, very easy to get overwhelmed by data that's irrelevant. So will I maybe find some interesting trend in a specific city? Yeah, but if you're getting your account, you know, if you're pitching your account to an agency or somebody's telling you that they can make your account better because they say, oh, look, in Dallas, it's a 0.5% better conversion rate. Yeah, but it's not practical to optimize a campaign that way. You're gonna get bogged down in minutia, and you're not gonna have time to do the things that are much more important. It's much, much more important to be spending your time optimizing across a range of dimensions in a Google Ads account. You need new keywords, negative keywords. You need to be changing your bids. You need to be A/B testing your ad copy. You need to be working on quality score. You need to be doing affinity audiences and remarketing audiences. There's a lot to do. So when it comes to location optimizations, look at the highest level that you think makes sense. So for an account like this, it would be at the state level. For most accounts servicing the country, it would be a state level. If you're only targeting within a small location or a radius targeting, then of course drill down the next level below. So I always recommend going the next reasonable level below and taking a look at your data. And if you want to just to wrap up, if you want to download data into Excel, you click the download button. You can download whatever report you're looking at in an Excel file, and then you can have fun with your pivot tables. And we're going to go into an Excel as we talk about quality score and keyword thematic groups of keywords, and a lot of exciting stuff to talk about. In the next lecture, we're going to talk about the advanced location targeting settings for exclusions and targeting. It's worthwhile to really understand that because they can make a big impact on where your ads actually show up and who sees them. So on that note, I do look very much forward to seeing you guys soon. in the very next lecture.